Hello and welcome to the Habit Architect. It's sponsored by Time Bandit, and I would urge you to go out and check out our Time Bandit bundle. The reason I'm urging you to do that so quickly right now in this episode is because Florencia and I are going to talk about hierarchy of values, which is a primary principle in Time Bandit, but it should be a primary principle in your life because it's the way that you can anchor yourself and your actions to what's really important. What is it that most matters to you? And so the hierarchy of values is a great way of getting to it. And a lot of people throw values around as a statement, particularly politicians who are only using it to get your vote. But actually, values are something that is deeply personal to you. It's not somebody else's value. It's what's important to you, and using them correctly will help you get where you want to be. And so we're looking forward to talking about that today. We'll bring Florencia on. Don't forget to go to timebandit.io and check out the bundle and then click through it. But I'm excited about this opportunity. So, Florencia, are you joining me? Hello.
Hi.
So in this episode, I think you're going to take the role of kind of interviewer, and I'm going to be the interviewee, right?
Exactly.
So you can ask questions of me, which is scary.
Is it? It should
No,
be.
not really.
No, it should be. It should be. You should be scared. No, just kidding.
So, all right. So we're going to talk about values today.
Yes, I'm excited. I'm excited because last time we talked, it like rewired my brain a little bit. I'm like on a personal journey. As well as like helping you and helping others with their journeys. I'm actually on my personal journey as well.
Yep.
So at one point I was like, you know what, let me actually purchase or like do what I'm preaching, right? And I downloaded the Time Bandit app, and I'm like obviously a little bit biased because I get all the fun Time Bandit stuff basically for free, but it's so useful. It came to the point where it has so much stuff in it, but it gets to the point where I'm like, I'm not really sure how to use it.
Got it.
So, or at least correctly.
Yeah.
So I was really excited about today's topic, which is the hierarchy of values, because there is a sort of matrix inside of the app. And I was like, hey, how, right? And I was like, oh, you know what? Let's just have the master of building habits help us here. I was going to say, first of all, like, what would you say people say it's like the hardest thing to do right now? Because we are, especially my generation, I'm in the middle, millennial and Gen Z generation, and I sometimes just need that dopamine. I need that like TikTok scroll of doom moment in my life. It calms me down. But I often, because I produce all your shows, I often listen to you say like, oh, that noise is not good. You should avoid that. And I'm like, oh.
Yeah. It's a good question. It's hard to define generally, but let me just start with, you mentioned the matrix in the app and habits. So those are two different things. And when I was thinking about assembling these two items into a methodology, I didn't invent habits or priorities, right? They were invented before.
Didn't you? No, I'm pretty sure you did.
And so, when I think about the matrix, right, that's about prioritization. So what's important to you? And you can't answer the question, what's important to you, if you don't have your values set. So that's why the hierarchy of values to me is this overarching thing. It's not in the app, by the way. Maybe it should be, but it's not. What's in the app is how you practice it daily, right? How you put it into general use, right? So we're going to talk more about values, but in a prioritization matrix, what you do is when you have a list of things you want to do, you look at the importance and the urgency of them, and you decide based on those importance and urgency what you do now, what you do later, what you delegate to others, and what you stop doing. Now, to answer your question, so we'll get into values a little bit more in a minute, but to answer your specific question, how do you know what to do or not to do? So if that dopamine rush is something that you need, then you need to figure out how to get it without disrupting everything else. So one of the biggest challenges I think your generation and my generation, frankly, have is distractions. And so distractions aren't necessarily bad, because there's also good distractions, right? You're having lunch thinking about something and you see an old friend, right? That's a great distraction. So it's not that distractions themselves are bad. It's how you handle the distractions and how you manage distractions that repeatedly get into your psyche, right? So for a lot of people, it's these things, right? They go doom scrolling, right? And they think they're just going to go check their text message, but then they look at Instagram, and 45 minutes later, they're oh my gosh, I'm behind in what I was trying to do. So that's a bad distraction. So what you have to do with understanding those distractions is, if you do need that jolt of caffeine or whatever it is that you've got to get, then get it, but make sure you have a boundary to it, right? So that Instagram look isn't for 45 minutes, it's for 10 minutes, if that's what's good for you. So I'm not suggesting it, because if you deprive yourself of things that you want to do all the time, you're going to become a very boring person, right? Find a way to balance those. And the quickest way to balance them is still allow yourself to do it in moderation.
Okay, and how does the hierarchy of values then come into play with all of this? Like,
yes, what we're trying to do is navigate a complex world and do good and while we're here, right? So why that's important, I mentioned the matrix, which talks about important and urgency. So a lot of times when I talk to somebody about this stuff, they say, well, how do I know what's really important?
Yeah.
And so that's where your values come in, right? So important to you could have several dynamics to it. If it's something that you aspire to be, you want to be a different person, or you want to put yourself in a position to be act differently. Whether it's become more philanthropic, or help your family more, whatever it may be. You got to decide what those are important to you. And when they are truly important to you, and we're going to talk about how to dissect that, then you know how to act and to honor that value. And that could be how you prioritize your day, what habits you choose to use in order to achieve that. So the easiest example, and it's not always the best one, but the easiest is something in sports, right? So somebody decides they want to run a marathon.
Okay.
So if they just say, I'm going to go run a marathon next year, that's it. What do they get? They're not really living that value, right? So they may or may not get there. And I'm sure the world is littered with people that said, I'm going to run a marathon, and never did. The ones that do decide to make it important to them. It's a value to them. And then they start building their habits around it. They start prioritizing around it. So think about that as it might play out for a marathoner. You're going to make time to go run. You're going to make time to get sleep. You're going to make time to do whatever needed physically to get your body ready to run a marathon. You're also going to prioritize in a way that still allows you to be a parent, whatever your job is, et cetera, and still find time to do those habits that you have. So that value then becomes so important, and you've exercised an ability to say, this is how I'm going to live my life to support that goal of running a marathon while not dropping everything else, right? Mm-hmm. And so because that value becomes important to them, they figure out a way to put it all in perspective. And when it's time to train, that's the most important thing at that time that they do, right? But when it's time to be with their kids, to work with their homework or whatever it may be, that's what they do. So they just figure out a better way of kind of systemizing how you use your time.
Would you say, what about people who are not really sure? I mean, someone who wants to run a marathon, they know what they want to do. But what if you don't know? What if you just are living your life day by day, like wake up, go into work, do some work, like come home, and then that's that, and that's maybe why you're like doom scrolling on TikTok or Instagram, right? Like, can the hierarchy of values, or determining these values, even can that help build something better?
Absolutely, because if what you just described there is somebody, if I'm hearing you right, is kind of mindlessly just doing what they're kind of told to do, right? They go to work, right? They pay their bills, they do that kind of stuff.
The famous cogging the machine.
Yeah. And so the challenge there is that they're not looking at what else they want, right? Mm-hmm. So if there's something else they want, and they may not know what it is, so your short-term value, and that could be a year, 2 years, or 10 years, might be a pursuit of some interest, right? So let's say maybe they've always kind of had an interest in painting, but they have never really tried it. So maybe what they do is, if their value is painting, they figure out a way to build a few habits and prioritize that into their life, whether it's once a week going to a gallery, or maybe once a week taking a class online about how to paint, or whatever it may be. They start working that in. So the pursuit is the value, and they may end up not liking painting at all, but they will have tried, and they will have been able to say, okay, that's not really important to me, but being a water skier might be at that point, whatever. And they valued it in a way that they pursue it to its end, right? Where it becomes their lifelong passion, or they did it and it's great, and they're glad they did it, but they want to move on to something else. And we've all done that, right? Sometimes we outgrow what's important to us, right? A marathoner can't run a marathon. Well, I shouldn't say can't. Probably won't be running marathons while in their 60s, 70s, and 80s. Now, some people do. So God bless them. But the reality is, if you're a marathoner, there's probably somewhere in your life you're going to transition into something else more important. The other thing that I would say is don't immerse yourself in it too much initially, right? Learn if you really want that. How many times have you seen somebody, I won't say his name, but I used to mountain bike a lot. And now I still like to bike. I just don't do the mountain part of it because I fell off of it. But this particular person said, when we had lunch and we talked about it, and he's like, you know what? I want to be a mountain biker too. And he went out and bought the most expensive bike, all the clothes, all the stuff. And then he got on the mountain and he hated it. Right. And he just hated it.
Right. I feel like that's such a, and I'm sorry, this might get me canceled, but I feel like that's such an American thing to do. Here in Argentina, people cannot afford to do that. Like, if you want to go mountain biking, if you're in Buenos Aires, just getting to the mountain part, it's gonna take a lot of money. So people start maybe just renting a city bike and going someplace far away and seeing if they like riding a bike for that long, or if they get chafed and they hate it. So that's a very but also I understand the need to do that, because I think that also purchasing the things to do the thing is also more fun than actually doing the activity sometimes. So I remember I used to work at a clothing store, not an importer for sportswear, and they gave me stuff for free, and I would be like, yeah, give it to me, and I'm gonna go to the gym. And you know what? I hate the gym. Never once, but it's so fun to just dress up. And there's also this thing where you lie to yourself and you're like, well, I look nice, maybe buying this will inspire me to do it. And what you're telling me is no, buying those things is not going to inspire you to do it, but maybe building this hierarchy of value will tell you if you actually like it, and then you can get the swag.
Exactly. But I think you just described a better approach: is you rent the bike, go for a couple of trial runs before you dive in, and if you really love it, then all great. That becomes part of your values. If it doesn't, it doesn't, and that's okay too, right? But I would love to see. I'm sure this stat is out there somewhere. I wonder how many treadmills are bought near New Year's resolution, and we can just say in the U.S. that become a clothes rack by March, right? That just people are on it in January, maybe a little into February, and then boom, now they hang their clothes on it when they're not using it, which is
the other thing that I was thinking of that I just remember is, can we have different values for different stages? Because I know that I have some values or some goals that I want to achieve career-wise, but also I don't want that to be my whole life. Right. I want to achieve other things that are more like passion. So can I integrate these things like career with building a routine and values for my career and also for my passions, so that my career doesn't drive me crazy?
Absolutely. If somebody told me they just had one value and that's it, I would be really sad for them and really try to talk them into something else, because we are not one thing. You're a sister, you're a daughter. I'm a son, and I'm a father. There's all these things that we are. I'm also a business person. You're also a student. There's all these things that we have to do. So they absolutely can have more than one value, and you should. I think if you're really focusing on things, it's probably 5 is a number that's kind of fits there, that you can manage at one time. Now, that doesn't mean that one value won't fall off and a new one come up. That should be the way too, because what you value at 23 may not be what you value at 33 or at 43, right? So we need to make sure and understand.
They're not fixed.
Yeah, exactly. And so, and if you think about the importance of thinking about it and walking through the exercise, we will a little bit later, that treadmill that we said somebody bought that becomes a clothes rack in March, probably the value they thought they had is they want to get into shape, or they want to lose weight, or they, it's very much kind of finite thing, but they didn't tie it into some of the other things that they want to do in their life, right? So the value
it's more like an action than a value.
Exactly. It should be, maybe they wanted to get healthy so they could be a better parent, so they could be there for, play with their kids or walk their dog or whatever it may be, but they didn't tie it to something. It was just one of those kind of things that somebody watched, a TikTok and said, hey, you should, jog 3 minutes a day or something on a treadmill. And so that's the way they went. And it's okay, because at least they did something, but you need to think about why you're doing it. Is it going to fit into your life pattern? And if so, make sure that you accommodate that through your priorities, right? And so I think when we get into the worksheet, it'll kind of become a little more clear.
Actually, I was going to tell you, let's get into this worksheet. I'm ready.
Okay. Well, first let me read. No, I think I'll read it later. But anyway, I was going to show you that in my journal. I write in the journal every day.
I want to say something.
Yep.
that for everyone who's listening, you are a man of so many like nooks and crannies. Like every time I talk to you, I'm like, what? Like right now, you were like, I fell off a mountain. What do you mean you fell off a mountain? And then now you're like, I love journaling. Who are you? Like, it's insane. Like the million of people you contain inside of you is just it's astonishing to me, honestly. Like,
well, thank you. I fell off a mountain sounds much more dramatic than it was. I avoided a kid and fell and broke my shoulder blade. But but I mean, it was in the act of doing something like biking. But so anyway, I have this journal, and I try to journal every day. And I also have my 5 hierarchy values written down here, and I laminated it, if you can tell, because it was just getting too, and I read it every day. Even though I could probably cite them to you without reading them, I make the mental practice of reading them every day, because it just does something to your brain when you do that, in my opinion. Right?
I have a question before you continue. Does it help when you're just starting out a habit to read the value? Does that inspire you?
I think it does. It does me. It does me because when that habit is, for me, mine is walk over 5 miles a day.
Yes.
Some days I don't want to walk 5 miles. Some days I don't want to walk at all. Right. And this morning when my dog Oliver was looking at me like, let's go for a walk, and it's 30 degrees outside, I'm like, huh. But understanding the value of the reason why I do that was 2. One, he's part of my family, and one of my values is more family time. The second is health, right? So those 2 reasons was a good reason to go out for that walk with Oliver, and I'm glad I did. So
would you say also that if I'm reading the value and it doesn't inspire me, maybe I should rewrite it?
You should rewrite it or evaluate if it's a value at all. Right?
So let's go into this this worksheet you're telling me so much about.
Let's do it. Let me share my screen. So there we go. Yes. All right. So this is in the training course that's out there, and you can download this. If somebody wants it, they can just drop me an email or something, and I will share it with them, because I think it's a crucial part. When somebody starts thinking about their habits, they start thinking about how they want to prioritize, use their time. Think about it as you've got a day tomorrow, a week, next week, whatever. How are you going to spend that time? Right. And the most important thing is to not look back and say, I didn't do anything I wanted to do. Right. And now sometimes procrastination is there, and we can talk about that. But the point of this exercise, and I did this on a sheet that you can download. I'm going to have to go to another. I'm probably not going to be able to see this, but I see you while I'm asking questions if I want to go scroll down. So what I did is, so a lot of times when I get into an hierarchy values workshop, for example, I ask people, yeah.
You do hierarchy of values workshops?
Yeah, I have. Yeah, absolutely. I've done it for
contact cups for hierarchy of value workshops.
Yeah, absolutely. These are fun. And now a lot of times sometimes they're in work related modes, but other times they're in kind of individual people that part of a community type thing that they want to.
Oh, like you could do one for like people who are trying to lose weight or like trying to stop smoking, right?
Yep.
That's lovely. Oh, so sorry.
I know that I've followed Smart Recovery for addiction, and this is a core tenet of that too, right? It's just absolutely important. So,
oh, I love that. Okay, so sorry I interrupted you. I just got excited. Another.
That's okay. So the way that I start the process is to say, write down whatever's important to you, right? And don't limit yourself. Just start writing down. And usually what people say is health, wealth, their career, and family. Right. And they say those 3 things along with some other things, maybe music, whatever.
Should it be specific, or should it be like very general?
No. And I don't ever put any cap on this. Just write down as many as you want, however you want to say them. Right.
Okay. Like
the reason being is we're going to go deeper into it step by step. And so they tend to write down 5, 10, 15 things, whatever's on their mind. And then that's great. And then what I do is say, okay, now, out of everything you wrote down, pick your top 5. And what you and I talked about, it doesn't have to be 5. It can be 3. It can be 6, right? I'm not suggesting that 5 is a magic number. It's just a manageable number to think about these things. So if you think that, so now let's say you take health, wealth, and family, and we have those 3 things. Well, the nice thing about those is those are good words, but they're nouns, right? They're just that, right? Health can be a verb, but it's really about the way that they use it typically is just this one word. So what we want to do next is go deeper, right? So you take your big list, you break it down into a smaller list, right?
Okay, wait. Let's try with one word. Let's try career, and then
Career.
and then do it career. That's
Okay.
also a noun, and it's really big. So
Yeah.
going deeper
Yes.
into that. Okay.
So here you'd say career, right?
Yes.
And then we'd go down here and say, okay, now that you have your values and you have 5 of them, you rewrite them here. And by the way, there's something, the reason I have you rewriting them is because it starts becoming part of you when you write things down. You probably know this from a studying perspective.
Yes.
So now you've got your 5 values. And let's say careers here, right? Now, why does this matter to you? Why does your career matter to you?
Oh man, this is so hard. I guess it's like you want to do something worthwhile, but also that, can support you.
Yep.
Does it have to be like,
Nope.
is this a good one? Is it okay?
Yeah, those are great. So the important thing about the why is it's really got to matter to you, right?
Okay.
So why does your career matter to you? So somebody else may tell you it's important to them to define who they are, leave a legacy, whatever. It doesn't matter. It's what's important to you. So what you said is you want to do something worthwhile, which probably means giving back to some community of some kind, and you want it to be sustainable for yourself, right?
Yes, correct.
Yeah. So that's great. So whenever you do your 5 values here, and then you start talking about what's mattered to you, and it is important that you define why, right? Because if it doesn't matter to you, if you find no whys, is it really a value you want, right?
Right.
So,
maybe you were influenced by outside stimuli to think that was important, and then this is when you realize it's not.
Exactly.
Okay.
And then the next step is you go in and you start, and I've made it where you could use AI, right? Okay. But what we want to do then is take a very introspective look. And sometimes you may want to take this away after you find out your 5 values and you define the why. You may want to separate from it for just a little bit and then come back to it and understand, how do we put this into action? How do we frame it in a way that you can practice and do it daily, right?
Okay. Does this mean I have to make it into a habit? No.
Not always. It just means something that you want to, that you need, the value needs to be action oriented. It's the shortest way to say it, right? Okay. So it can be easily framed. So family, right? If somebody says my family is my highest value, well, what does that mean? Why is it important to you? Well, it may be important because time goes fast, kids grow up fast, whatever. Now, how do we put that in practice? And right. I'll read you how I did it for family. Right?
Oh, yes.
So prioritize family and community was my top priority. Okay. And it's make daily choices that allow quality time with family, ensure flexibility to be present for important moments and activities with loved ones.
Oh, right? Okay.
So what I've done there is it's not really a habit. I don't have to check a box every day that says I spent time with family. What I said was make daily choices that allows me to spend more time with family, right? So given a choice, I don't drink, but if I were a drinker, do I stop off at the bar and say hi to my buddies, or do I go home and be with my family? You're making a choice, right? So a daily choice for me would be to skip the bar and go home and see my family, right? So the other thing on here is ensure flexibility. So when I don't know if you can see that, but my son is texting me now. Was ensure flexibility. So when I know my grandson or my son or Angeline or anybody has something coming up that's important, that I want to make sure that I have the flexibility to do that. Now, having said that, I know that some circumstances don't allow some people to take off work to do stuff, right? But my point is, make sure that you are designing your life to allow flexibility to make time for family. So that's what's important to me. It may not be important to everybody, but that's what it means. Okay. So we always tend to think about the big moments being the most important, but what's really important is like making breakfast on a Saturday morning, together and just talking, things like that. So that's what I just want to do with that value of mine, is make sure that I'm having those moments and scheduling the important ones and things like that. Does that make sense? There's no rules here. There's no hard rules. Okay. But to me, that breakfast with Catherine is part of why I'm making time and allowing flexibility, things like that.
Oh, okay. All right. Yep. So how can the bee help
Yep.
me. 'Cause I'm
So
clearly
I wrote a
struggling.
prompt, a simple prompt here, right? So we went up here and we said career. You may want to be a little more specific, but just go into Claude, OpenAI, whatever, whoever you use. And I have a value of
We're
career.
Claude supporters. We like Claude.
I
Yes.
like Claude too.
Yeah, me too.
Could you help me refine this into a statement about how I should live to support this value? It's open-ended, but what's going to happen there, Florencia, is that it's going to give you some ideas. None
Right.
of them will probably be spot on that you like or want. So think about it as you're trying on a new shirt, right? Yeah, that one kind of fits. It doesn't fit. You can go back and ask Claude again, say, hey, that almost hit the point, but I want you to refine it a little more. And the only reason I suggest you use Gen AI, you don't have to. You can do this yourself, but Gen AI might just give you more ideas about the
Right.
action.
It's more like inspiration than
Yep.
straight. Got it.
And then once you get the ones you really settle on, write them down. And then that's your values. And like I did, I wrote them down on my worksheet, and then I put them on, I typed them out. And then just because I travel a lot and the paper was getting rigid. So, my values, I won't read the statements to you. Is prioritize family and community, retirement readiness. So I'm a little older than you, as you may not have noticed.
No, you're infinite.
I've got health and wellness. I've got embody authenticity is something that I probably wouldn't have done the rest of earlier in my life. I wish I would have, but now I do. And the last is champion people-centric work. So,
Aww.
so those
You
are my
actually
five.
do that. You do that last one a lot, actually. I was
I
thinking.
do.
Yeah,
I
you
do.
do.
And I think I'm doing better at the authenticity. I'm certainly doing better at health and wellness, readiness for retirement, and prioritizing family. I mean, I always wish I had more time with them, but I'm doing what I can to get the most. I wish I could see my grandson more is what I wish, but that's not necessarily, well, that's my priority. His family has other things.
Also, I think that if you asked your daughter-in-law, she would be like, yeah, just have him. Drops him off for days. Yeah. But I do have a question. Because the name is hierarchy of values. So if I put is number one the most important to me, or is that like,
no.
Is it?
No, it's not. It's not really. Now, some people operate that way, right?
Okay.
The first thing on the list is most important. But I don't. I mean, they're not really that. I didn't rank them. But if you're a ranker, rank them. Especially if you find that. I mean, think about if there's a single mom out there that is just doing everything she can just to keep things on the rail, then I would say one, try to keep your hierarchy values to like 3, and instead of 5, don't try to do too much. But sometimes they just have to have that number one priority. And a single mom, the number one priority may be that child, right? And that's okay. And then you just and if that's the number one on their list, that's number one. But I don't think you have to rank them necessarily.
Okay, and I do have another question. What if it's something? Okay, what if it's something I really, really, really want to do, but I hate doing it? Does that mean that the value is just not written correctly, or is it I should put it number one? Like that should be your number one priority. Then if you
that's a good question. And the number one thing that comes to my mind when you said that is, let's say somebody wants to buy a house, right? Yes. And in order to do that, there's a lot of sacrifices that happen along the way.
Yes.
Right? You have to save a lot of money. You have to be responsible when your friends are going out or somebody's taking a vacation. You have to pass on that. So I think it should be, even if you don't want to do it, because it might give you the discipline to do it. Because if you write that statement in a way that says, I want to provide for my family in a house of their own, that we can have a warm feeling every holiday season, whatever it may be. Yeah. If that's your value, then it might give you a little more motivation to not spend that extra thing that all your buddies are doing or what have you. Right.
Okay.
So I think the other one, so saving money is a big one. I think when it comes to things you don't want to do, but you should do. And the other one is health. Right.
Yeah.
Because it's really easy. I mean, I don't know about in Argentina, but in the US, I think you can see it everywhere that people are very indulgent with themselves, right? They supersize their Big Macs or whatever. I am proud to say I've not eaten at McDonald's in probably over 12 years. So when you think about health, right? Again, I think in mine, I start off with make choices that support a healthy mind and body, right? So that's the statement so again, what I like about that is it tells me daily that I'm making a choice for that value, right? And choice could be driving past McDonald's and going on home and eating something healthy or whatever it may be, right? And so when you think about what you were talking about, putting a value on there that's hard, it's okay, but break it down in those choices and those moments that you get to take control over it, right?
And then the last final question. What if so my sister, and I think I've talked about her all the time. She's my little baby. She has ADHD, I think ADHD. And so whenever she has to write something down, she just struggles. So I was thinking, can we build this hierarchy of value with pictures? Because I think that would help her. She's an artist too. So like maybe she drew it and she could make a board and she could look at it instead of like having something and written it down. Is that something?
Absolutely. I think that's a great idea. And maybe when you think about, remember a while back, there was this craze about vision boards.
Oh, yeah.
Kind of the same thing. That's more goal oriented, but I think you're right. I've just started reading a book about how to learn foreign language. I think I mentioned this to you. I tried all the silly apps and none of them are sticking, but this book is talking about putting pictures associated with phrases so you remember them. And I think for values, it's a great idea. The one thing I put that worksheet together, and it's a good way to instruct how to do this, but there's no rule book to it, right? Your values are your values. Whatever you choose to be that number one item, and then you put a why to it, is all up to you. And then the action statement is just so you can live it, right?
I love that. How do we translate this onto something that I can actually use on the Time Bandit app? So I've made the worksheet. I have my 5 values or 6 or 3 or whatever. How do I translate this into actionable items on my to-do list? Or how do I use it to organize? Because my to-do list is infinite, but how do I actually use this?
Yeah. So I don't know if this scenario applies to you. I know you're taking a class or you do some schoolwork, right?
Yes.
Okay. So let's say that one of your values is to get the highest grade in the class or whatever.
At this point is passing. At this point is passing, but okay.
Let's say you want to make a B or better, and that's your value, and you have the why, and da-da-da-da-da.
Yeah.
Somebody comes to you, and you have a final on, let's say, Friday. Somebody comes to you and says, Florencia, we'd love for you to have a picnic with us on Thursday afternoon. And now you've got your to-do list. You can have that picnic, and you have ranked the importance, but you have a final on Friday. So now you've got a choice. You've got 5 days or 4 days between now and that picnic, or I'm sorry, the final. So now you get to prioritize what you're going to do with those 4 days in preparation for that value, which is get a B or better on the test, right? So now you're just going to make choices. So you can say, I can't join you on this picnic. I'm going to schedule that for later because the urgency is not there, right? It's important to you to have a picnic with your friends, but it's not urgent that you have it this Thursday. You could have it 2 Thursdays from now, right? So that's the schedule quadrant. If you think about that quadrant, you're making a choice that says, it's important to me, but I'm going to schedule it for later. Now, if it's something that's important to you and it's urgent, like your grandmother's in town from somewhere else and she's only here on Tuesday and she wants to go to lunch with you, well, she's not going to be here Wednesday or next Tuesday because she's from out of town. So that urgency just raised it up. So you're going to prioritize that, right? That it is important for you to have lunch with your grandmother and it's urgent because she's only here on Tuesday. So it just allows you to say, where are your priorities in here? So if that means you're having lunch with your grandmother on Tuesday, you might have to move something else out of your schedule so you can prepare for that final. Does that make sense? So you're starting to categorize the things that are coming at you, your to-do list, like you said, your infinite to-do list. You're starting to say, is this item important, which matches your values? And then what's the urgency with it?
So would you say that the best practice would be get your values ready and then make a list of all the things you have to do and then look at both sheets, right? And say, okay, I'll match them. Does this match my values? Yes. Does this not? Okay, then I'll dump this. This stays, and then I match it in level of urgency.
Yeah. So that's exactly what you do in the priority matrix. So if on the app, you can go in and enter a new task. Yes. And that task gives you an opportunity to say, is it important and is it urgent? And it automatically puts it in a category for you based on your answer.
Love that.
It does, based on your answer. So the important point there is that, yes, you can look at your values every day. Or you should read your values every day. But over time, you're not going to need to have the two lists in front of you and just say that aligns with this value, you're going to kind of innately know it. Right. And then there's things that come into play, and that's why I put in the app that gives you the ability to assign a task with a list. Sometimes certain things like aspirational, they're very important, but they can be scheduled out there a ways, right?
Right, because they're never urgent.
Right. Well, they will become urgent at some point, but they don't necessarily, if you've got a boss telling you've got to get this report done by Thursday, that just may have to take urgency up the notch because that's what, pays the bills or what have you. But that's the idea of the matrix, which I love, is it kind of sorts through it. And oh, by the way, the bottom left quadrant is delegate. And so delegate is a weird one, right? So some people say, well, I don't have an assistant, so how can I delegate? Well, in the world of AI, you may be able to delegate stuff off. In other things, you may be delegating it off your list altogether, right? May just may not be important enough, right? So that's the one thing. So on the bottom two quadrants, it's unimportant, and then it has urgency. So sometimes your boss will say, I need you to schedule a meeting with so-and-so. Well, that's urgent, but it's not really high on your importance list. So you just delegate it off, and that's where scheduling tools and things like that might apply. And then things that aren't important or urgent, just stop doing. I think this is the one area that's difficult for all of us to stop doing. So we talked about doom scrolling earlier. So maybe, something, if you're TikToker and Instagram, maybe you only need one of them, right? So you stop one or the other. Or
maybe, this is more like on the realm of, there was a webinar you did a couple of weeks ago where you talk about breaking habits. So that could be a bad habit that needs to break. So you have room in your life to be focusing on your values and building habits that support your values, right? Right.
I think that's the important thing that we need to think about, that nothing happens overnight anyway. And two, we need to find our journey that fits for us, fits for our lifestyle. And that's when we talk about that treadmill, they probably didn't think about all that was needed in that. Number one, what did healthy mean to them? Number two, do they have time for it? Can they fit it in? Does it compete with other values? So you really want to think about those things before you just kind of jump in and say, that's my value, right?
So I want to close up with something that is like sort of your trademark at this point. You always ask people what they think about this phrase.
Yep.
And no one has ever asked you, like, hey, Cups, what do you think about this phrase? And also, as a producer who spends a lot of time talking to you, the came about of this phrase was literally just Cups one day coming to me and saying, like, I thought about this, or I read this somewhere, and I love it. And I was like, okay. And I never asked you why or how it came to be. So now that I have this space.
Yeah. I was talking to an old friend, and what struck me when I was talking to him is the things he kept referring to in yesterday, right? His past. And he was saying, well, this happened and this and this, and I didn't do this right. And I didn't, and there was so much regret in him and I heard it, that I was thinking, well, what you really need to think about is tomorrow, not yesterday. And the reason being is if we anchor ourselves to things we've done in our past, and those are the things that we think of first, we're not setting ourselves up for tomorrow, right? So take somebody that's been maybe chronically unhealthy. If all they think about, well, the last time I tried that, I failed, or the last time I did, and all of their thoughts go to that negative perspective, how are they going to be successful tomorrow, right? So what I would rather people do is think about, what am I in control of today that will change what tomorrow looks like, or will allow me to enjoy tomorrow even more so, and stop being anchored to what happened yesterday. It's okay to have memories, good memories, bad memories, all of that stuff. I'm not suggesting that we just block it out. I'm just saying, don't let it be your anchor, right? Don't let it control the way that you act today that will affect tomorrow. And I think it's a hard thing to think about, because we're told that memories are good, and memories are good, but they're not all good, right? They can hold you back in a really subversive way if you don't think about it, right? So, what is something that you're not going to try today because you failed at it twice in the past, right? Well, if it's really important to you, try again. Try it differently. Do whatever it is. Just try again. And I think that's what this means to me is it really came about when I was talking to that old friend, and how fixated they were on the decisions they made in 10 years ago, 5 years ago, 30 years ago, whatever it was. And what it looked like to me was the guy was in jail. Right.
Right. He was blinded.
Yeah. So, and that's no way to live. I mean, that's just no way to live. Now, there's childhood trauma. There's all kinds of things that are difficult, but that I just do think we can take a little ownership over today to get where we want to be tomorrow.
That's beautiful. It's like sort of like build your future in your mind so it can happen.
Yeah, and free yourself from what was holding you back too.
Right. I love that. That coupled with therapy.
Yep. There you
love
go.
that.
Yeah,
that
exactly.
was wonders, I'd say.
Exactly.
Okay.
All
so
right.
that's great.
Well, thanks everybody for watching, and hopefully this was useful. Do drop a comment in LinkedIn or YouTube, wherever you're watching, and subscribe, follow, whatever you have to do in your podcast choice. So
yes, and if you want to know more about how to use these tools that Cups has on timebandit.io, then just let us know. We're always reading and open to making more videos that explain how the different parts of the Time Bandit, would you say like universe, work, I think, right? Like
Sure. Let's all take back our time. Let's be bandits.
Yes, I love that.
All right. Thank you, Florencia, for hosting today. I enjoyed it.
I love talking